Is everybody awake yet? Good. I want to start the morning off with a little challenge for you guys. And here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to ask a question, and in my pocket, I've got a crisp $20 bill for whoever can shout the answer right first, before I say time. You guys ready to play?
42.
That's pretty good. Not right yet, though. So if we're ready, here we go. What's the circumference of the Earth? And time. Sorry, I know that wasn't very fair. I kind of cheated. But I don't like to give away my money that easily. And number two, I was kind of running a little experiment. So show of hands out here. How many of you, as I asked that question, automatically reached for your pockets or your smartphones to help you? Go ahead, get your hands up. Anyone? Well, I'm going to assume some people might have. How many people out there have smartphones here today with us? Probably most of us, all of us do. In fact, I want to take a moment to illuminate this point, just how second nature our smart devices and Googling things have become. You know, across the world, there are more than 1 billion people with smart devices in their pockets. And every second of every hour of every day, more than 60,000 people ask Google a question. That's 60,000 questions a second. That's an insane number, and that's just Google. You know, it's pretty awesome just how powerful these devices have become. You know, every day we walk around with a seemingly infinite amount of wisdom in our pockets. And it's these devices that help us ask or answer questions like, how do I get there? How's it made? And it's pretty cool. But there's a problem with this reflex, and it's this. With a computer in our pockets and Google providing easy answers to almost anything and everything, it's becoming too easy to neglect the power of our own minds. Listen, guys, you need to know this. Your brains are way more powerful than any smart device, and it's 2 reasons. 1, you have the ability to deduce answers on your own. And 2, only you have the ability to be creative, to think curiously, to ask questions and wonder why. And I believe that by doing these 2 things more, you absolutely will live a more creative life and come up with new and more magical ideas. So technology isn't going to slow down at all. In fact, over the course of the next 2 years, it's estimated that the number of smartphones is going to double. But we have to be really judicious about our use of these devices. We can't allow them to start thinking for us. And so, as I'm sure you all know, just because something's on the internet doesn't make it true. In fact, there's a famous quote by an author named H.L. Mencken that goes something like this. For every complex question out there, there's an answer that's clear, simple, and wrong. And I like that quote a lot. But today I want to change it around a little bit and say it this way. For every complex question out there, there's an answer that's clear, simple, and unimaginative. That's what a computer gives us, the easy way out. Clear, factual data. But chances are, it's not at all new, it's unimaginative, and it's certainly not creative. So how are we going to learn to be more creative if we keep looking to these computers to answer our questions for us? Well, let's talk about that first point, figuring out things for yourselves. So does anyone here know what a Fermi problem is? It's actually a strategy for figuring out complex problems named after Nobel Prize-winning physicist Enrico Fermi. He had a knack for figuring out answers that were pretty darn close using nothing more than some basic math, logic, and life experiences. And you know, Fermi was a way smart dude, but look, these are all things that you and I can do. We don't need to be a physicist, and we don't need Google. So the most common example of a Fermi problem is, how many piano tuners are there in Chicago? You guys may have learned about this in college. But we can really apply his same principles to almost any question, like, how many golf balls would it take to fill a school bus? Or how many drops of water are there in Lake Erie? Or maybe something a little bit closer to home today, like, how many blue cars are there in Dayton? So let's take those principles and apply it to the question that I asked earlier. What's the circumference of the Earth? Don't Google it. We're going to deduce it. So let's work together. Maybe you guys can help me out. So on a trip from flying from New York to Los Angeles, how many time zones would we pass through? 3. It's 3. And about how far would that trip be? Estimate like 3,000 miles? So from those 2 points, we could deduce that the average width of a time zone is approximately 1,000 miles wide, right? Now, how many time zones must there be around the world? Does anybody know this? There's 24, because there's 24 hours in a day. So if we take all this information and bake it together, we could come up with an estimate for the circumference of the Earth that's 24,000 miles round. And actually, the real answer to that question is pretty damn close. It's 24,901. So thank you, Mr. Fermi, for helping us with that. But So we can, we should, we will exercise our brains more, right? But can this really help us be more creative? The answer to that question is yes, because it's the first step in understanding that creativity isn't always about figuring out the right answer to problems. Creativity is about discovering new answers. So let's talk about that second step, curiosity. Look, guys, we need to be more curious. Look around, stand up, ask some questions like why? How did we get here? How does this little clicker thingy work? Or why does that guy's shirt look blue to me? And you know who's got curious figured out? It's kids. Anyone that spends time with children knows just how incessantly curious they are. They keep asking questions that a lot of us have kind of forgotten about or don't really care about anymore, like, why is the sky blue, or how big is the earth? And you guys can answer that one now. But really, curiosity is an innate human trait. It's hardwired into all of our brains, but it seems like over time, it tends to fade as we experience things like fear or disapproval, or maybe being made fun of for asking too many silly questions. In fact, people that ask too many questions are irritating to the others around them, so we learn to just stop. At least that's what the textbooks say about the fading of curiosity. But here's what I think. I think that computer in our pocket and easy access to answers from Google is also accelerating the fading of wonderment. We're asking why a whole lot less and looking for quick answers more. So we can learn, though, how to be more curious and creative by studying a child's incessant curiosity. These guys are the masters of invention. And if you ask a kid how something works, you might just get a magical answer. They don't have our same powers of deduction yet because they don't have our same life experience. So when their curiosity about how something works can't be solved by reasonable conclusions, they come up with their own magical ideas. Crazy lands, random little machines, fairies, things that you and I, as logical, practical, reasoning adults, don't think nearly enough about anymore. And this is creativity at its best. So check this. This is Charlie. This is my son. He's 10 years old. And last week or so, I asked him to draw me a picture of how the TV that he was glued to works. And a day later, I got this. And now, the spelling's a little whack, but you can see that he actually came up with at least a few of the basics of how a TV works. And after talking to him, that piece in the center, that advanced picture-making circuit, it's actually pretty darn cool. It pumps out tiny little beads of disappearing ink into his color pixel screen there to make the image. And, I think that's a pretty creative solution. So that's how kids think. But what about adults? What about grown-ups that never lose that sense of wonder? People that come up with crazy, whack ideas are nuts, right? Well, I'm not so sure about that. If you look back through history, a lot of people have had some strange ideas about how the world we live in works. Think about Newton. He wondered why things fell to the ground and came up with this idea of gravity. Galileo looked up and imagined things about the star and the sky and came up with the solar system. And that dude spent some time in jail for it. But actually, my all-time personal favorite is straight-up batshit crazy Nikola Tesla. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. He experimented and invented all sorts of things, from how to harness electricity, to radio, to robots, x-rays, remote controls, all sorts of things. And you know what? Everybody did think this dude was nuts. And I'm sure his OCD personality and his crazy little haircut there didn't help him any. But guess what? Today, every single one of our homes and our appliances runs on Tesla's AC current, and some of his initial thoughts about wireless energy transfer are getting a second look today. So I guess we could say that this lunatic's work actually has and continues to change our world around us. So here's what you need to know. All of these devices, our computers, our smartphones, Google, all of those things, curious, creative people invented them. And curious, creative people are going to be the ones that imagine and invent our future. So I'm not saying that we should reject technology. I am saying, however, that we need to re-script our use of it. Don't let Google be a reflex. Don't become a passive consumer of information. Instead, be an active creator. Ask some questions. Invite curiosity and wonder into your daily routine. Think about how things could or should work first, and then go Google your answer. I guarantee that by doing this, you will absolutely live a more creative life. And along the way, you just might come up with a crazy, nutty, batty, wacky idea. And those, my friends, are exactly the kind of ideas that will change our world. Thank you.